How do you justify overthrowing a government? I mean, not just with swords and shields, but with an idea, an argument so powerful it completely rewrites the rules of power itself. Well, today we're going to dive into one of the most influential political speeches ever made.
So I want you to picture this. It's over 3,000 years ago, ancient China. A massive army is gathered right at the edge of a river. You can just feel the tension in the air. They're about to cross and take on the ruling Shang Dynasty, a dynasty that's been in power for centuries. This is a huge deal.
But right before they make that fateful move, their leader, King Wu, steps up to speak to his troops. And let me tell you, this is way more than just a pre-battle pep talk. He is laying out the entire moral and philosophical case for revolution. So the big question is, how does he do it? How does he convince his soldiers, and all of history really, that what they're doing is right?
What we're digging into here is a document known as the Great Declaration. It's basically King Wu of Zhou's argument against the Shang. And honestly, it's a total masterclass in political persuasion. His strategy kicks off with what you might call the first rule of any revolution. You have to define your enemy. Right? So before you can step up and present yourself as a solution, you've got to make it crystal clear what the problem is. And for King Wu, that problem has a name: King Zhou, the last ruler of the Shang. Wu starts by building this absolutely airtight case against him, painting a picture of a king who has failed his people in every way imaginable.
The very first charge he levels is a big one, a fundamental one: neglect. The declaration argues that King Zhou isn't just a bad king, he's a tyrant. He's been crushing his own people and has completely thrown away the most basic duties of a ruler.
And, it just gets worse from there. Wu accuses him of being completely lost in his own personal vices, just drowning in debauchery. And this isn't just a private matter, oh no, it has poisoned his entire reign, making him rule not with wisdom, but with pure, raw violence.
Then come the details that are just stomach-turning. He uses these incredibly graphic, shocking accusations, claiming Zhou committed acts of just unspeakable cruelty. This isn't just bad leadership anymore. This is monstrous.
But the list of crimes doesn't stop with what he's done to people. And this is a really critical point to understand. For his audience, failing your spiritual duties was just as bad, if not worse. He's accused of disrespecting the heavens and neglecting the ancestors, basically cutting the sacred ties that hold the whole kingdom together.
And finally, King Wu connects the dots. He ties the king's over-the-top lifestyle directly to the suffering of the public. Every fancy palace, every luxury garden, it was all built on the backs of ordinary people, turning the kingdom's wealth into a source of their own misery. The case is closed. The verdict is in. King Zhou is a tyrant.
Okay, so the king's a really bad guy. We get it, but is that enough to justify an all-out war? Well, this is where King Wu unleashes his secret weapon, a concept that would go on to shape Chinese history for literally thousands of years. This idea is the absolute core of his whole speech, the mandate of heaven, or Tianming. The concept is pretty simple, but it's totally revolutionary. It says a ruler's right to sit on the throne isn't a permanent thing. Nope. It's a sacred trust given by heaven, not a god exactly, but more like a cosmic moral force. And that trust can be taken away if the ruler stops being virtuous.
Now this might just be the most powerful line in the whole declaration. Think about how radical this is. How does this cosmic force, heaven, know if a ruler is doing a good job? By looking at the people. The happiness of the people is the voice of heaven. The well-being of the public isn't just a political talking point. It's a divine measuring stick.
So you see the logic here, right? It's brilliant. First, heaven picks a ruler to be a parent to the people. Second, that parent has to rule with kindness and morality. Third, if that parent becomes abusive and tyrannical, they lose heaven's support. And fourth, this is the kicker. Heaven then finds a new, virtuous leader, someone like King Wu, and tasks them with overthrowing the tyrant. Suddenly, rebellion isn't a crime, it's a divine mission.
So now that he's established the moral high ground, King Wu turns his attention to his own army. He needs to get them fired up, to make them believe that they aren't just soldiers in a war, but agents of cosmic justice.
And he starts with this amazing psychological move. He looks at the enemy's biggest strength, their huge numbers, millions of men, and he flips it. He says, sure, they have a lot of people, but that's actually their weakness. Why? Because their hearts are divided. They have no single purpose. And look at how he drives this point home with this powerful comparison. He says the Shang have hundreds of millions of men, but with hundreds of millions of minds.
They're a disconnected mob. But his army, the Zhou, they may only have 3,000 ministers, but they have one mind. He's telling his troops that their unity and moral clarity is a weapon far more powerful than sheer numbers.
This is how he empowers them. He's reframing everything. He's saying, look, you are not traitors trying to grab power. You are the very instruments that heaven has chosen to bring justice back to this land. Their cause is righteous.
And here it is, the final call to action. It's urgent, it's personal, and it wraps up their entire military campaign as a sacred duty. The time cannot be lost. With those words, he transforms an army of soldiers into an army of believers, ready to fulfill what they now see as their destiny.
So, what happened? Well, King Wu's army crossed that river. They won the battle. The Shang Dynasty crumbled. But the real impact of this great declaration? That was just getting started. Its ideas would echo for thousands of years to come. I mean, the longevity of this idea is just unbelievable. The mandate of heaven, laid out so clearly in this one speech, became the absolute foundation of Chinese political thought. For more than 2,000 years, every single dynasty that came to power claimed they had the mandate, and every dynasty that collapsed was said to have lost it.
So, what should we really take away from this ancient text? Well, first, that a ruler's power is never absolute. It's conditional. Second, that real legitimacy doesn't come from brute force, but from moral behavior. Third, that how you treat your people isn't just politics, it's a matter of cosmic importance. And finally, that sometimes overthrowing a tyrant isn't just an option, it's a moral duty.
And that really leaves us with one final, powerful thought. The true genius of the Great Declaration is how it answers that age-old question. By saying that heaven's will is the people's will, it fuses the two together, creating this incredibly potent idea that has challenged emperors and empowered revolutions ever since.